Hey guys, welcome to Wednesday, the first day of your math state assessment. I want to commend you guys on still coming in and putting in your effort and your hard work on ELA today, even though we had 25-minute periods and you really didn't get the opportunity to decompress after the assessment, and I'm really proud of you guys. I continue to be proud of the way you are handling this last part of your year. Keep it up. It's been really great to see. I had you guys explore. You had a choice for your fire starter today, as part of that choice, the extended comparison, the metaphor that we talked about yesterday in yesterday's video. You can go back and check that out. I won't rehash it all today as to why we use comparisons to help people understand and connect to us. That's part of yesterday's post, so go back there and check that out if you want to. But I also gave you the opportunity, if you wanted to, you could try that, or you could handle a more traditional fire starter. Again, both of those will be down below just like they always are. But the other one was when Stephen says, "Take me, Lord, don't take Jeffy." We're talking about changes in characters now. We're about a third of the way through the book, a little bit more than that, and we're seeing some distinct changes in character. That's why I called today's post "Changes and the New Normal." It actually sounds like it could be a rock band, doesn't it? Like Changes and the New Normal, playing now at, anyway. But changes in the new normal, because what we're starting to notice is that, and not surprisingly, but I guess the extent is what's so surprising, of how much Jeffrey's illness has changed the family, their interactions, how they're handling things, and we're seeing Stephen mature, and he's maturing quite quickly in the face of these problems, which is not uncommon as a reaction to have. We do notice that Mom and Jeffy are very, very used to this situation that's going on in the hospital. And I'm going to read you, just for those of you who weren't in class to hear my description, there's this like barrage of medical terms at the top of page 100, because we did make it all the way through fever, that chapter in class today. So if you weren't here, make sure you read through to the end of fever for homework for Friday. I will be checking organizers on Friday. I will be checking fire starters on Friday. You should have at least 5 vocabulary terms done, because we're a third of the way through. You should have those first 2 major events done, Jeffrey's fall and Jeffrey's diagnosis of leukemia. And you should have every single chapter, every single box that we've been through so far of Wait What Just Happened filled out. The If Life Had a Soundtrack sheet, don't worry about it yet. We'll talk about it a little bit more as we get further along in the book. But what I'm talking about here, going back to this new normal that's happening, Mom and Jeffy have already been hearing all this medical terminology, but we are in the dark about it. And at the top of page 100, when they get to the ER, the doctor is barking out orders like a Marine drill sergeant. That's what Stephen says. He says, "We'll need a CBC and a full differential. Do you know what his last counts were? When were those taken? Does he have a catheter? What kind? Take his shirt off. Okay, access the portacath. Make a note. We'll need to run some heparin soon. Get the bloods first. We have to have those numbers." Pow, 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 pow. Just like barrage of medical terms. What a CBC is it's your basic blood counts. Red blood cells, white blood cells, platelet count, plasma viscosity and density and volume and all of this stuff. All of these things that kind of go into what makes Jeffy a cancer patient and all of his counts different from a normal person is what these doctors need to know so that they know how to treat him appropriately. Full differential. Now what this is, it's about 40 to 50 different chemical balances within your bloodstream. Now what your organs and your body systems do is they produce chemicals and secrete different things that regulate what your body does, and in a healthy body they should be at a certain level. Now what they can tell from those is maybe if your liver's not functioning appropriately, or if your kidneys aren't functioning appropriately, the levels in those differentials will be able to give an indicator. It won't definitively say it, but it'll give an indicator of maybe what's wrong. So that's why he needs that. Do you know what his last counts were? They'll ask you that because it gives them at least a heads up before they can get the results back of whereabouts he might be. But it says, when were those taken? If they were taken not within the last 24 hours, there's a good chance they could be like completely useless because the body changes that quickly, especially for those people who don't have much of an immune system like Jeffy. Does he have a catheter? Remember, we talked about a catheter the other day. It's any time a tube is inserted into any body system that's not natural, that has a line to the outside. So this catheter that Jeffy has is called a portacath. What they do is for little kids, they actually hide this disc that has like a gel pad kind of substance that they attach into the IV line that goes directly into the vein by Jeffy's heart. Now, why they do this for little kids, even though they still have to stick a needle in through their skin every time, they bury it and stitch it under the skin completely because, say for somebody like me, when I went through it, I had what were called Broviacs and Hickmans, which were the tubes actually dangled out of my chest. But that also makes it an open wound that has to be cleaned and cared for. It also means that when those tubes are dangling, rambunctious kids can often get themselves into situations where they're rolling all over the floor or whatever, and that can actually pull loose and cause a lot of medical problems and bleeding. And so what they like to do is they like to bury it under the kid's skin, which gets explained a little bit later in the chapter. We'll need to run some heparin soon. What that means is, whenever there's an outside line into the body doesn't want it there. Even though it's a help to the body doesn't know that. It's processing things differently. And so what it'll try to do is it'll try to clot up any access to the outside world. Well, what that means is if we don't run heparin, which is a blood thinner, through the line first, there's a chance that there could be a blood clot in the end of that IV tube that's going into the vein directly. And if that blood clot moves throughout the body, it can cause a lot of problems, including a heart attack or even a stroke if it gets lodged in the heart or the brain. So that's why heparin needs to get run. So a lot of serious stuff, but it's the new normal. Mom doesn't flinch. She answers all the questions. Jeffy doesn't blink an eye. I mean, all of this stuff is weird and strange and out there, but it's the new normal. And Stephen is starting to realize this. Also, Mom talks about and cries with the doctor about how all of these medical bills are starting to pile up. They have really good insurance, but they still have to pay all this. And people are like, wait, why does it have to pay if they have insurance? Well, there's what's called a copay. Now, copays are the part that insurance doesn't cover. Well, most good insurance covers an awful lot of the cost of treatments, of supplies, of medications, of procedures, all this stuff. But I'll give you me as an example. My medical treatments from start to end were over $8 million total. My parents went $70,000 into debt, even with great insurance, just because of copays and travel and lost work and all these extra costs that people don't realize happen. Which is why the strain on the family is even greater, and why people will sometimes throw benefits for people and raise money, because this stuff gets really expensive really quickly, and a lot of people don't realize that even with insurance, it gets really, really costly. So that's part of the new normal as well. This constant worrying about, am I going to be able to afford to pay the rent, to feed my family, to buy enough gas to get us to Philadelphia where Jeffy needs to get treatment? I mean, this is some stuff that's entering into the circumstances now that are really changing people's perspectives. We still see Jeffy, although he's changing a little bit because he's starting to get kind of scared and nervous about his treatments. He's still asking Stephen things like, did you kiss Renee Albert? Did I ruin the dance for you? He's really handling this as though he's trying to keep up that sense of normalcy, which is usual for a kid going through this. One last thing. This interaction between Dad and Stephen, once they finally got home after Jeffy was stabilized in the hospital, Dad finally opens up and shares what Mom called him to say, and actually asks Stephen how he's doing with all of this, and Stephen breaks down, and they hug, and we're starting to see a little bit of a different communication. Even though it's tough for Dad and it's very uncomfortable, and it's probably uncomfortable for Stephen too, we're seeing that they're coming together and they're adapting to one another so that everybody can make it through as a family. This is pretty intense stuff, which is why I keep asking you to put yourself in the shoes of these people and be and show empathy and explore empathy for them and the hypothetical situation, because when conflicts come into our lives, it's really true what we've been saying about the 4 biggies. Conflict changes plot. And the resolution to conflict, whether it's a big conflict or many small conflicts, the resolutions to those conflicts should ultimately teach us something when we analyze themes that have come up over and over again, and we should be able to change ourselves as a result of what we learn. This is how we adapt. This is how we bring about a new normal and try to move forward and cope with what's been going on in our lives. And it's really important that we do that and we attempt to make all of that happen as we move through life, so that we become better and more receptive and more responsive people as we communicate for the purpose of understanding each other and being able to connect to each other. Great work today, guys. I'll see you on Friday. I'm out tomorrow, but you guys are doing a Science Day thingy tomorrow after your assessment anyway. Please be respectful of Mr. Shermer. I know you always are. I'd just like to say, I'd just like to remind you, but I'm actually going to get some info about Google Docs and Google Tools, because we're actually going to have some Chromebooks next year that we're going to get to play around with, and I have to increase my professional development, just like you guys have to increase your professional development as students. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to get back and use some of the tools that I'm going to learn about tomorrow, and I'm excited to see you guys on Friday. Have a great day. Good luck on your assessment. Don't forget to rest up, get a good breakfast, and I'll see you then.